My husband dropped my anniversary gift into the kitchen trash can like it was a piece of junk mail, and I watched 20 years of marriage die right there under the fluorescent lights. "What are you doing?" I asked, though I already knew. Already felt it happening. That sick twist in my gut that meant everything was about to change. Blake turned to me, still holding the trash can lid, his face arranged into that expression I'd come to hate, the one that said he was about to explain something obvious to someone too stupid to understand. "Come on, Maggie. You can't seriously expect me to hang this in my office." The "this" he was referring to was a painting I'd spent 3 months creating. An abstract piece, 18 by 24 inches, oils on canvas. Blues and grays and silver, layers of color and texture that I'd built up night after night in the garage studio Blake had grudgingly let me set up last year. I'd titled it 20 Years in my head, though I hadn't written it anywhere. It was supposed to represent our marriage, the depths, the complications, the beauty I still believed existed underneath everything. "I worked on that for 3 months, I said quietly. Exactly my point. Blake set the trash can down with a thump. 3 months, and it looks like something from a hotel lobby. If you're going to give me art, Maggie, at least give me something authentic. Something real, not this mass-market garbage. Our daughter Zoe snorted from the kitchen doorway. She was 16, all long legs and attitude, her phone perpetually attached to her hand. Dad's new wife already won, she said, not even looking up from her screen. The words hit me like a slap. Excuse me? I turned to stare at her. Zoe finally glanced up. Her eyes, Blake's eyes, that same cold blue, meeting mine with something like pity. Brittany's an interior designer. She knows about art and stuff. Mom, you paint in the garage. It's kind of embarrassing. Zoe, Blake said, but there was no real reprimand in his voice. If anything, he looked pleased that someone else was saying what he'd been thinking. I stood there in my own kitchen, the room I'd painted eggshell white 3 years ago, the cabinets I'd refinished by hand, and I felt like a stranger, like I'd walked into someone else's life and didn't know the rules. Who's Brittany? I asked. The silence that followed was deafening. Blake's face did something complicated. Guilt, definitely. But also something else. Defiance, maybe. Like he'd been caught but wasn't particularly sorry about it. A colleague, he said finally. A colleague named Brittany, who Zoe apparently knows well enough to compare to me. Mom, don't make this dramatic, Zoe said, rolling her eyes. Dad works with her. I've met her at the office. She's nice. How many times have you met her? I don't know. A few. I looked back at Blake. A few times. Our daughter has met your colleague a few times, and I've never heard her name once. Maggie. How long? How long what? You know what. Blake sighed, ran his hand through his hair. That gesture I used to find endearing, back when we were young and everything he did seemed charming. Now it just looked theatrical. 6 months? Maybe 7. It's not what you think. You're sleeping with her. No. Jesus, Maggie, no. We're just talking, getting to know each other. She gets me. She understands what I'm trying to build at the firm. And I don't. You don't even try to understand. You're content living in your little bubble, painting your little pictures, working part-time at the library. You have no ambition, no drive. Brittany's building her own design company. She's hungry for success. She makes me want to be better. There it was, the truth he'd probably been holding back for years, finally spilling out in our kitchen on our 20th anniversary. I wasn't enough. I'd never been enough. And now there was someone who was. I want a divorce, Blake said, the words tumbling out like he'd been waiting to say them. I've been thinking about it for months. I can't do this anymore. I can't keep pretending we're happy. Zoe looked up from her phone, startled. Dad? Your mother and I will work out the details, honey. Don't worry. This doesn't change anything between you and me. But of course, it changed everything. It already had. I walked to the trash can, reached in and pulled out my painting, carefully, like it was something precious. The frame was smudged with coffee grounds. The corner had a dent from where it had hit the bottom of the can. Maggie, what are you doing? Taking back what's mine, I said. I walked out of the kitchen, through the living room with its matching furniture set that Blake had insisted on, up the stairs to the bedroom we'd shared for 2 decades. I set the painting on the dresser, really looked at it for the first time in weeks. It was good. I knew it was good. The layering technique I'd used, the way the colors shifted depending on the light, the texture that made you want to reach out and touch it. This wasn't hotel art. This was the best work I'd ever done. Blake thought it was garbage. Brittany would probably agree. Zoe was embarrassed by it. But I knew what it was worth. Not in money, in something deeper, in hours of work and thought and feeling, in the part of me I'd poured onto that canvas, the part I'd thought Blake might finally see if I could just show him clearly enough. I'd been wrong, but that didn't make the painting any less valuable. I carried it downstairs, past Blake, who was now on his phone, probably texting Brittany, telling her the deed was done, and out to my car. Put it carefully in the back seat, got in, and drove. I didn't know where I was going until I got there. The Riverside Gallery sat in the corner of 5th and Main, a renovated warehouse space that had been showcasing local artists for the past 10 years. I'd been inside maybe 3 times, always feeling like an imposter, like someone who didn't belong in that world of real artists with real talent. I parked across the street and sat there for 20 minutes, watching people go in and out. Young couples, older art collectors, people who looked like they knew what they were doing. My phone buzzed. Blake. We need to talk about logistics. I deleted the message without responding. It buzzed again. My sister Helen? Zoe just called me crying. What happened? I turned the phone off. Finally, I got out of the car, grabbed my painting from the back seat, and walked across the street. The gallery was bright and open, white walls covered with paintings and photographs and mixed media pieces. Classical music played softly from hidden speakers. The floor was polished concrete. Everything smelled like expensive candles. A woman approached me, 50-ish, gray hair and a stylish cut, wearing all black. Can I help you? I'm looking for the owner. That's me, Cynthia Wu. She extended her hand. I shook it, feeling awkward with the painting tucked under my other arm. I'm Maggie Brennan. I paint. I was wondering if you ever look at unsolicited work. Cynthia's expression shifted to something practiced. Polite rejection. We usually work by referral or application. We get a lot of walk-ins, and I'm afraid. Please, I said, and my voice cracked. Please just look at it. 30 seconds. If it's garbage, I'll leave and never bother you again. She hesitated, then nodded. Okay, 30 seconds. I unwrapped the painting from the protective plastic I'd hastily covered it with. Held it up. Cynthia's expression changed immediately. The polite mask dropped away, replaced by genuine interest. She stepped closer, studying the canvas. May I? She reached for it. I handed it over, watching as she carried it to a wall, held it up against the white space, stepped back, moved it to catch different light. Her fingers traced the surface without quite touching it. This is yours? She asked. Yes. How long have you been painting? All my life. Seriously, for about 5 years. Training? Self-taught, mostly. Some community college classes. I read a lot of books. Do you have more like this? My heart started pounding. Yes. Maybe 20 pieces. Different sizes, but similar style. Cynthia turned to face me fully. I'm going to be very honest with you, Maggie. This is exceptional work. The layering technique alone is remarkable. The color palette is sophisticated without being derivative. This isn't just good. This is gallery quality work. I felt my knees go weak. Really? Really, I'd like to see your other pieces, all of them, and I'd like to discuss representation. Representation? I'd like to represent you as an artist. Show your work here. Help you build a career. The word career hung in the air between us like something impossible. My husband just told me he wants a divorce, I said, the words spilling out. He threw this painting in the trash an hour ago. Said it was hotel art. Mass market garbage. Cynthia's eyes hardened. Your husband is a fool. I started crying right there in the gallery, standing under the track lighting while classical music played and strangers browsed paintings. Cynthia didn't try to comfort me, didn't make it weird. She just stood there, holding my painting, waiting for me to pull myself together. I'm sorry, I said finally, wiping my face with my sleeve. Don't apologize. Divorce is brutal. Art is forever. Which do you want to focus on? Art, I said without hesitation. Good answer. Here's what we're going to do. You're going to go home, photograph all your work, and email me the images tonight. Tomorrow you're going to load everything you have into your car and bring it here. I'm going to look at it all, and we're going to plan your first solo exhibition. Solo exhibition? You heard me. I have a slot opening up in 6 weeks. Artist backed out. The space is yours if you want it. 6 weeks? I know it's fast, but I have a feeling about you, Maggie, and I've been doing this long enough to trust my feelings. I stood there, unable to process what was happening. 2 hours ago, my marriage had ended. Now a gallery owner was offering me a solo show. What about price? I asked. I have no idea what to charge. We'll figure that out together. Based on your technique and the current market for emerging artists in your style, I'd estimate anywhere from $8,000 to $15,000 per piece, maybe more for the larger works. My brain short-circuited. 1,000? As in $1,000? Yes. Your work is worth it, Maggie. You just need to believe that. $8,000. $15,000. For paintings I'd been creating in my garage, paintings Blake had dismissed as garbage. Okay, I said. Yes, I'll do it. Excellent. Cynthia handed me back my painting. Take good care of this one. It's the anchor piece for your show. I drove home in a daze, the painting once again carefully secured in my back seat. When I pulled into the driveway, Blake's car was gone. Zoe's light was on upstairs. I carried the painting to the garage, set it up on my easel, and looked at it. Really looked at it. Then I started photographing everything I'd created over the past 5 years. The next 6 weeks were a blur of preparation, legal consultations, and increasingly hostile text messages from Blake. You're being unreasonable about the house. We need to discuss Zoe's custody schedule. My lawyer says you're entitled to half of everything. That seems excessive. I ignored most of them, focusing instead on getting ready for the exhibition. Cynthia came to the house twice to look at my work, both times while Blake was at the office and Zoe was at school. She selected 15 pieces, ranging from small 8x10s to a massive 4x6 foot canvas I'd completed last year. This is your statement piece, she said, standing in front of the large canvas. It was an explosion of deep blues and purples, with traces of gold leaf I'd applied during a particularly ambitious phase. This is going to be the centerpiece of the show. What should I price it at? I'm thinking $75,000. I almost fainted. For one painting? For the painting. Trust me, the right buyer will pay it. We titled the exhibition Emergence. Cynthia hired a photographer for promotional materials, a graphic designer for the catalog, a PR person to drum up press. She worked with the efficiency of someone who'd done this 100 times. Meanwhile, my marriage crumbled in slow motion. Blake hired a lawyer named Richard Stone, a shark who specialized in making divorces as painful as possible. My lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Patricia Vale. He wants the house, Patricia told me during our third meeting. Full ownership, says he's the primary earner and should maintain the family home. What about Zoe? He's asking for full custody. It made my hair stand on end. On what grounds? Says you're unstable, going through a crisis, making impulsive decisions. Patricia looked at me over her reading glasses. He mentioned something about you suddenly pursuing an art career at 43? That's not impulsive. That's been building for years. I believe you, but he's going to paint it as a midlife crisis. Question your judgment. Make you look flighty. So what do I do? Win. Show him you're not flighty. Show him you're serious, and for God's sake, make some money off this art thing so he can't claim you're financially unstable. The pressure mounted as the exhibition date approached. Cynthia scheduled the opening for a Friday night, sent invitations to her entire collector list, reached out to local press. The gallery's social media started promoting Emergence 3 weeks out, using high-quality photos of my work, and people started paying attention. A blogger wrote a preview piece calling my work hauntingly beautiful. A local newspaper art critic requested an interview. The gallery's Instagram posts were getting hundreds of likes. You're creating buzz, Cynthia said, sounding pleased. That's half the battle. Blake, predictably, lost his mind when he found out. He showed up at the house on a Wednesday evening, 2 weeks before the opening. I was in the garage doing final touch-ups on a piece Cynthia wanted to include. Are you insane? He demanded, not bothering with a greeting. You're having an art show, now, in the middle of our divorce? The timing isn't ideal, but yes. Maggie, this is embarrassing. People are going to see your work. People we know. That's kind of the point of an art show, Blake. You're making a fool of yourself, and of me, by extension. I set down my brush, turned to face him. How exactly does my art show make you look foolish? Because everyone's going to know my wife thinks she's an artist. They're going to see your amateur paintings and feel sorry for me. Has it occurred to you that maybe the paintings aren't amateur? That maybe I'm actually good at this? He laughed. Actually laughed. Maggie, be realistic. You're a part-time library assistant who paints as a hobby. Having a gallery show doesn't make you Picasso. I never said I was Picasso. Good, because you're not. You're a middle-aged woman having a breakdown and embarrassing both of us in the process. I looked at my soon-to-be ex-husband and felt nothing but pity. He was so small. His world was so limited. Success meant a certain job title, a certain income level, a certain type of house in a certain neighborhood. Anything outside those parameters didn't exist for him. Get out, I said quietly. What? Get out of my garage. Get out of my house. And unless it's about Zoe or divorce logistics, don't contact me again. You can't throw me out. I pay the mortgage. Actually, according to Patricia, we both pay the mortgage. Community property. Now get out before I call the police. He left, slamming the garage door hard enough to rattle the windows. I went back to my painting, hands shaking, and added a streak of gold that caught the light just right. The opening night of Emergence fell on a Friday in late October. Fall in Seattle meant rain, and it was pouring when I arrived at the gallery at 5 p.m., 2 hours before doors opened. Cynthia met me at the entrance, umbrella in hand. Ready? Terrified. Perfect. That means you care. She led me inside, where my paintings now hung on pristine white walls, each one lit by individual track lights. Name cards sat on small pedestals below each piece, listing title, medium, and price. I walked through the space in a daze. My work looked different here, important, real. The large canvas, the one Cynthia had priced at $75,000, dominated the back wall, commanding attention from the moment you entered. People are going to come, Cynthia said. They're going to look at your work. Some will love it, some won't. That's art. What matters is that you created something authentic, something true. Blake's word came back to me. Authentic. He'd wanted something authentic for our anniversary. Well, here it was, 20 pieces of my soul, hanging on walls, waiting to be judged. My sister Helen arrived at 6, bringing moral support and wine. Holy shit, Mags, these look amazing. You have to say that. You're my sister. I don't have to say anything, but seriously, these are incredible. I had no idea you were this good. Neither did I. By 7, the gallery was filling up. Cynthia's collector list was apparently extensive. Well-dressed people moved through the space, studying my paintings, murmuring to each other, sometimes nodding. I stood in a corner, sipping cheap white wine, trying not to hyperventilate. Maggie Brennan? A man in his 60s approached, extending his hand. Lawrence Abbott. I collect contemporary abstract work. Nice to meet you. This is extraordinary work. The layering technique you use, I haven't seen anything quite like it. Where did you study? I didn't, really. Some community college classes. Mostly self-taught. His eyebrows rose. Self-taught? That's remarkable. You have a natural understanding of color theory that most people need years of formal training to develop. Thank you. I'm particularly interested in your statement piece. The large canvas, has it sold yet? My heart started pounding. No, not yet. I'd like to purchase it. I stared at him. The $75,000 one? Yes. It would be perfect for my home office. I'm prepared to write a check tonight. Yes. Yes, that would be amazing. Lawrence smiled. Excellent. I'll speak with Cynthia about the details. He walked away, leaving me standing there, unable to process what had just happened. I'd sold a painting for $75,000 to an actual collector. Helen grabbed my arm. Did that just happen? I think so. Maggie, that's insane. That's more than you make in 2 years at the library. I know. More people approached throughout the evening. Some asked questions about technique. Others wanted to know my inspiration. A few requested business cards. Apparently artists had business cards now. By 9 p.m., Cynthia pulled me aside, her face carefully neutral. We need to talk. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's very, very right. She showed me her tablet, displaying a spreadsheet. You've sold 8 pieces tonight. Total value, $212,000. The room tilted. That's not possible. It's very possible. And there are 4 more serious inquiries pending. Maggie, you're a hit. I sat down hard on a nearby bench. $212,000. 8 paintings. In 2 hours. The gallery takes a 40% commission, Cynthia continued. That leaves you with just under $130,000. Before taxes, obviously. But still, that's a very successful first show. I started laughing. Couldn't help it. Hysterical, probably inappropriate laughter that made nearby patrons look over in concern. Are you okay? Cynthia asked. My husband threw my painting in the trash 6 weeks ago. Told me it was mass-market garbage. Now I just made more in one night than he makes in a year. Cynthia smiled. Then I'd say you had the last laugh. The evening continued in a blur. More sales, more conversations, more people telling me my work was beautiful, important, meaningful, things Blake had never said, things he'd never even thought. Around 10:30, I saw him. Blake stood just inside the gallery entrance, Brittany beside him. She was younger than I'd pictured, maybe 35, with perfect hair and perfect clothes and that confident air of someone who'd never doubted her place in the world. Zoe was with them, looking uncomfortable. Blake's face went through several expressions as he looked around the gallery: surprise, confusion, and finally something like fear. He walked toward me slowly, Brittany and Zoe trailing behind. "Maggie," he said. "Blake. I didn't realize." He gestured vaguely at the walls. "Your work is actually displayed." "Yes, that's what happens at a gallery show." Brittany was studying the nearest painting, one of my mid-sized pieces priced at $12,000. A red "Sold" sticker sat next to the price card. "These are sold?" Blake asked, noticing the stickers scattered throughout the gallery. "Most of them." "For how much?" I smiled. "Enough." Zoe drifted toward the back wall, toward the large canvas I just sold to Lawrence Abbott. She stood in front of it for a long moment, then turned back to me. "Mom," she said quietly, "did you paint this?" "Yes. It's actually really good." "Thank you, honey." Blake followed her gaze, saw the painting, saw the price card, saw the "Sold" sticker. His face went pale. $75,000? Someone paid $75,000 for that? "Yes." "Who?" "A collector named Lawrence Abbott." "That's insane. That painting was sitting in our garage last month. It's worth maybe a few $100s at most." Cynthia appeared at my elbow, her presence suddenly protective. "Actually, it's worth exactly what someone is willing to pay for it. And Mr. Abbott was willing to pay $75,000? I'd say that establishes its value quite clearly." Blake stared at her. "Who are you?" "Cynthia Wu, owner of this gallery and Maggie's representative." "And you are?" "Her husband." "Ex-husband soon," I corrected. "You're the one who threw her anniversary gift in the trash," Cynthia said, her voice ice cold. "The painting that's now the centerpiece of this exhibition, the one that just sold for $75,000. Blake looked like he'd been punched. Brittany touched his arm. "Blake, maybe we should go." "No." He turned to me, his voice desperate. "Maggie, we need to talk. About the divorce. About the settlement. I think we should reconsider the terms." "What terms specifically?" "The house. The custody arrangement. The financial split. Everything. Maybe we were too hasty. Maybe we should try counseling." I laughed. Couldn't help it. "You want counseling now? Now that you know I'm not a failure? Now that you see people actually value my work?" "I never said you were a failure." "You said I had no ambition, no drive, that I was content being mediocre. You threw my painting in the trash, Blake. You told me it was garbage." "I was wrong. I can admit that. I was wrong about a lot of things." "Yes, you were." "So let's fix it. Let's start over. We can make this work, Maggie. I know we can." I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw desperation where there used to be contempt, saw fear where there used to be confidence. He'd built his identity on being more successful than me, more important than me, more valuable than me. And now that foundation had cracked. "No," I said simply. "What?" "No, we can't fix it. No, I don't want counseling. No, I'm not reconsidering the divorce. You made your choice, Blake. You chose Brittany. You chose to belittle me. You chose to throw away 20 years of marriage because I didn't fit your image of success. Those were your choices. Now you get to live with them." "Maggie, please!" "The answer is no." Cynthia stepped forward. "I think it's time for you to leave." Blake looked around the gallery at all the sold paintings, at the people still studying my work, at the life I was building without him. Then he looked at Brittany, who was staring at her shoes, clearly uncomfortable. "This isn't over," he said. "Actually, it is. Sign the divorce papers, Blake. Take your 50% of the marital assets that don't include my art or my future earnings from it. Move on with your life, because I'm moving on with mine." He left, Brittany hurrying after him. Zoe lingered for a moment, looking between me and the door. "I'm sorry, Mom," she said quietly. "About what I said before, about Dad's new wife winning. I was wrong. Thank you, sweetheart. Your paintings really are amazing. I'm proud of you." She hugged me quickly, then followed Blake and Brittany out into the rain. I stood there in the gallery, surrounded by my work, and felt something shift inside me, something that had been broken starting to heal. The legal proceedings became significantly more complicated after the gallery show. Blake's lawyer filed an emergency motion claiming I'd hidden assets during the initial disclosure. Patricia shut it down with documentation proving all the paintings had been created during the marriage using marital funds, which meant they were technically marital property. But since the income from their sale was post-separation, It belonged to me alone. He's grasping at straws, Patricia told me during a conference call. The law is clear. Any income you earn after the date of separation is yours. He has no claim to it. He wants to delay the divorce. Of course he does. Now that you're successful, he wants to negotiate better terms. Classic mistake. He should have been nicer to you when he had the chance. The next 3 months were a masterclass in watching someone realize they'd made a catastrophic error in judgment. Blake called constantly, left messages ranging from apologetic to angry to desperately pleading. I stopped listening to them after the first week. He showed up at the house unannounced, trying to talk to me about reconciliation. I called Patricia, who called his lawyer, who told Blake if he showed up again, he'd be hit with a restraining order. He tried using Zoe as a go-between, which lasted exactly one conversation, before she told him to stop putting her in the middle. Meanwhile, my art career exploded. The local newspaper ran a feature article about the show, calling me an extraordinary emerging talent. A Seattle arts magazine did a profile. My Instagram following went from 200 to 15,000 in a matter of weeks. Cynthia fielded inquiries from galleries in Portland, San Francisco, even New York. Collectors started reaching out directly, asking about future work. I raised my prices, and people paid them without blinking. I quit my job at the library, not dramatically, just gave my notice, thanked my boss for the years of flexibility, and walked out knowing I didn't need the income anymore. The financial impact was surreal. By December, I'd sold 23 paintings for a total of $340,000. After Cynthia's commission and taxes, I'd cleared roughly $150,000. More than Blake made as a senior partner at his firm, more than I'd made in the previous 4 years combined. And I had another show scheduled for February. The divorce finally went to mediation in January. Blake, Brittany, Richard Stone, the shark lawyer, me, Patricia, and a mediator named Douglas Kent, who looked tired before we even started. Let's begin with the easy stuff, Douglas said. The house. My client wishes to maintain primary residence, Richard said. He's been the primary breadwinner throughout the marriage and should retain the family home. Patricia didn't even look up from her notes. The home was purchased jointly. Both parties have been making mortgage payments. Mrs. Brennan has no intention of giving up her equity. We're prepared to buy her out. At what percentage? 60-40 split, given my client's higher contributions over the years. That's not how community property works, Patricia said mildly. 50-50 split, or we sell and divide the proceeds. Blake leaned forward. Maggie, come on, be reasonable. You don't even want that house. You said yourself it felt like a museum. I never said that. You implied it. You hated the furniture, the layout, everything. Why fight me on this? Because it's mine. Half of it is mine. And I'm not giving you anything just because it's convenient for you. We went back and forth for an hour. Finally agreed to sell the house and split the proceeds 50-50. Blake looked miserable about it, but his lawyer probably told him it was the best he'd get. Custody, Douglas said next. My client requests primary custody, Richard said. Mrs. Brennan has been exhibiting erratic behavior, sudden career changes, emotional instability, questionable decision-making. I felt rage building, but kept my face neutral. Patricia smiled. Erratic behavior? Mrs. Brennan launched a successful art career. She's financially stable, emotionally healthy, and maintaining an excellent relationship with her daughter. Mr. Gallagher, on the other hand, is having an affair with a woman 10 years his junior and told his daughter that her mother was mediocre. Which parent sounds erratic to you? Richard's jaw tightened. That's misrepresenting. I have text messages. Would you like me to read them? Zoe, who wasn't present but whose wishes had been documented by a child psychologist, had stated clearly she wanted to live primarily with me. The psychologist's report noted that she felt more supported and understood by me and was concerned about her father's judgment regarding relationships. We settled on joint custody with primary residence with me. Blake got Zoe every other weekend and Wednesday dinners. He looked destroyed. Financial assets, Douglas continued. This was where it got interesting. Community property split, Richard said. All assets acquired during the marriage should be divided equally. Agreed, Patricia said. Bank accounts, retirement funds, vehicles, personal property, 50-50. And future earnings from artwork created during the marriage. Patricia's smile was sharp. No. Those paintings were created with marital assets, in the marital home, using materials purchased with marital funds, their community property. The paintings themselves might be considered community property if they still existed in their original form, but they've been sold. The income from those sales occurred after the date of separation, making it separate property belonging to Mrs. Brennan alone. That's a technicality. That's the law. Richard pulled out a document. We've had the artwork that hasn't yet sold appraised. 7 remaining pieces, total estimated value. $130,000. We're claiming 50%. You can claim whatever you want. The answer is still no. Blake finally spoke up, his voice tight. Those paintings were created during our marriage, Maggie, using money I earned. You wouldn't have been able to make them without my support. I looked at him across the conference table. You threw my work in the trash. You told me it was garbage. You said I had no talent, no ambition, no value, and now you want to profit from it? I was wrong, okay? I admitted that. I was wrong about you, wrong about your talent, wrong about everything. But legally, I have a right. You have no rights to my art, I said quietly. You gave up that right when you dismissed me, when you chose Brittany, when you called me mediocre in front of your entire family. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Blake. You taught me that. We argued for another hour. Patricia was immovable. The paintings that had sold were sold. The income was mine. The paintings that remained unsold could technically be considered community property, but good luck enforcing that when they were locked in a climate-controlled storage unit only I had access to. We could get a court order, Richard threatened. You could try, Patricia said, but by the time the order came through, those paintings would be sold and the income would be, say it with me, separate property. We settled the rest of the financial details, split the bank accounts, the retirement funds, the cars. Blake got his precious BMW, I got the practical Honda. We divided the furniture, the kitchen equipment, the books. At the end of 4 hours, we had a divorce agreement. One more thing, Patricia said as everyone started packing up. My client requests that Mr. Gallagher cease all contact except regarding their daughter. No more drop-bys, no more phone calls, no more attempts at reconciliation. That's harsh, Richard said. That's necessary. My client has moved on. Mr. Gallagher needs to do the same. Blake looked at me, his eyes red. Is that really what you want? Complete separation? No friendship, no connection, nothing? We'll always be connected through Zoe, I said. That's enough. Maggie, I still love you. I know I screwed up, but I still... No, you don't. You love the idea of me now that I'm successful. You love what I represent, what I can do for your image, but you don't love me. You never did. You loved having someone less successful than you, someone you could feel superior to. And when I stopped being that person, you panicked. That's not true. Yes, it is. We both know it. I stood up, gathered my things. Sign the papers, Blake. Let me go. Find someone who makes you happy. Because I'm done trying to be enough for you. The divorce was finalized in March, 1 year after that disastrous anniversary dinner. The house sold quickly. Seattle real estate market was insane. I walked away with $220,000 from my half of the equity. Combined with my art income, I suddenly had real money. Life-changing money. I bought a condo in Fremont, an airy 2-bedroom with north-facing windows perfect for a studio. I furnished it slowly, carefully, with things I actually liked instead of things Blake approved of. Zoe moved in with me, bringing her teenage chaos and constant stream of friends. She'd started drawing, asked me for lessons. We spent weekends in my studio, both working on our respective pieces, music playing, easy silence between us. Mom, she said one Saturday in April, I need to apologize again for what I said about Dad's wife winning. Honey, you've already apologized. I know, but I need to say it again. I was such a brat. I thought being successful meant having a fancy job and making lots of money. I didn't understand that you were already successful, just in a different way. It's okay. You were 16 and dealing with your parents' divorce. You're allowed to be a brat. Dad's miserable, you know. He and Brittany broke up last month. I didn't know that. She said he was obsessed with you, that he couldn't stop talking about your art career and how he'd made a mistake. She got tired of competing with an ex-wife. I felt a small pang of something. Not sympathy, exactly. Just sadness for wasted time, wasted energy, wasted love. I'm sorry it didn't work out for him. Are you? I'm sorry he's unhappy. I don't wish him harm. I just don't want to be married to him anymore. Do you think you'll date again? I thought about that. Maybe, eventually, when I'm ready. Mom, you're a successful artist making ridiculous amounts of money and living your best life. You'll have guys lining up. I laughed. I'm 43 years old, honey. Nobody's lining up. You're 43 and amazing. There's a difference. My second solo show opened in February and was even more successful than the first. I sold 18 out of 20 pieces for a combined total of $410,000. After Cynthia's commission, I cleared about $240,000. Galleries in Portland and San Francisco expressed interest in representing me. A collector in New York bought 3 pieces sight unseen, based on photographs alone. I hired an accountant to manage the influx of money, set up a proper LLC for my art business, started planning for quarterly tax payments, all the boring adult things that came with suddenly having a career. Cynthia scheduled my 3rd show for October. "We're going bigger this time," she said. "Larger venue, more promotion. I want to establish you as a major player in the contemporary abstract scene." That sounds terrifying. That sounds like success. Get used to it. I spent the summer painting like a woman possessed, developed new techniques, experimented with mixed media, pushed myself harder than I ever had. The work was good. I knew it was good. But more than that, it was honest. It was true. It was authentic. That word Blake had wanted without understanding what it really meant. Authentic meant real, vulnerable, brave. I was learning to be all 3. October arrived with crisp air and golden leaves. My 3rd show, titled Reclamation, was scheduled to open at a larger gallery in Pioneer Square. Cynthia had pulled out all the stops. Professional photographer, videographer for social media content, feature interviews with 3 different publications. "You're becoming a name," she told me during setup. "People are starting to recognize your style, your aesthetic. That's when an artist transitions from emerging to established." The week before the opening, I got an unexpected call. "Ms. Brennan, this is James Whitmore. I'm a curator at the Seattle Museum of Contemporary Art." My heart stopped. "Yes?" "I've been following your work with great interest. I attended both of your previous exhibitions and was quite impressed. I'm calling to see if you'd be interested in being part of a group exhibition we're curating for next spring. It's a showcase of Pacific Northwest contemporary artists." Yes. Absolutely yes. "Wonderful. I'll have my assistant send over the details. We'd love to feature several of your pieces." After he hung up, I sat in my studio for 10 minutes, staring at the wall. The Seattle Museum of Contemporary Art wanted my work. Not a gallery, a museum. I called Cynthia, who screamed so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "Do you understand what this means?" she demanded. "Museums, Maggie. This legitimizes everything. This takes you to the next level." "I'm terrified." "Good. Channel that into your work." The night before my opening, I couldn't sleep. Lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the journey from that awful anniversary dinner to this moment. 20 months. That's how long it had taken to completely transform my life. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "I know this isn't my place, but I'm proud of you. Truly, you deserve all of this success. Blake." I stared at the message for a long time, considered responding, considered ignoring it. Finally, I typed, "Thank you." Nothing more, just acknowledgement. He didn't deserve more than that. The opening night of Reclamation was everything the first show had been, but amplified. More people, more press, more energy. I'd priced the pieces higher this time, nothing under $10,000, the largest work priced at $120,000. Lawrence Abbott was there, having become something of a patron. "I'm interested in the large piece again," he said, gesturing to the painting that dominated the back wall. "Assuming it's not already sold." "It's not." "Consider it sold now." $120,000 for a single painting. By the end of the night, I'd sold 16 pieces for a total of $670,000. After Cynthia's commission, I'd net about $400,000 in one night. I stood in the gallery after everyone had left, surrounded by the few remaining pieces, and tried to process it. In 20 months, I'd gone from a part-time library assistant to a successful artist making more in a year than Blake would make in 5. And it had all started because he'd thrown my painting in the trash. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls from Blake and a series of increasingly desperate texts. "We need to talk. It's about Zoe. Please call me back. It's important." I called him back, worried. "What's wrong? Is Zoe okay?" "She's fine." I lied. "I just needed you to call me." I hung up. He called back immediately. "Maggie, please, don't hang up. I really need to talk to you." "About what?" "About us. About what we had. What we could have again. Blake, we're divorced. There is no us. I made a mistake. The biggest mistake of my life. I should never have left you. I should never have thrown away your painting. I should never have made you feel less than." "You're right, you shouldn't have. But you did, and that's something you have to live with." "I can't live with it. I can't function knowing what I destroyed." "Then I suggest you find a good therapist. That's not my problem anymore. And Maggie, I'm begging you, just meet me for coffee. Let me apologize properly. Let me show you I've changed." Why would I do that? Because you loved me once. Because we built a life together. Because I'm asking you to give me one chance to make this right. I thought about it. Thought about the man who'd dismissed my work, belittled my dreams, and chosen someone else. Thought about the year I'd spent rebuilding myself, discovering who I was without him. No, I said. Please. I said no, Blake. I don't owe you coffee. I don't owe you closure. I don't owe you anything. You made your choices. Now live with them. I still love you. You love the idea of me. You love what I've become. But you don't love me. You never did. I hung up and blocked his number. Zoe came out of her room, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Was that Dad? Yeah. Let me guess. He wants to get back together. How do you know? He's been talking about it constantly. It's exhausting. He doesn't understand that you've moved on. Have I moved on? Zoe looked at me seriously. Mom, you're a completely different person than you were 2 years ago. Not different bad, different good. You're confident, you're successful, you're happy. Why would you go back to being the person you were with him? I wouldn't. Then stop feeling guilty about it. She was right. I had been feeling guilty. Some small part of me still felt sorry for Blake, still felt like maybe I should give him another chance. But why? Because we'd spent 20 years together? Because he was sorry now? Because he'd realized his mistake? None of those were good enough reasons to go backward. I'd spent too long building this new life to let him pull me back into the old one. The museum exhibition opened in March. 5 of my pieces displayed alongside work by established Pacific Northwest artists. The opening night was elegant, sophisticated, worlds away from the intimate gallery shows I'd gotten used to. Helen came with her husband Greg. Violet came with Claire. My mother flew in from Arizona, finally understanding that this wasn't just a hobby. I'm sorry I didn't take you seriously before, she said, standing in front of one of my paintings. I thought you were just passing time. I didn't realize you were building something real. Neither did I, honestly. Your grandmother would be so proud. I thought about my grandmother, who died when I was 12. She'd been a painter, too, though she'd never exhibited or sold her work. Just painted for the joy of it, in her basement studio, creating beauty nobody but family ever saw. I'd inherited her easel, her brushes, her love of color and form. I think she'd be shocked, I said. No, my mother corrected. She'd be thrilled. She always said you had her eye, her understanding of light and shadow. She knew you were special. The exhibition ran for 3 months. The critical response was overwhelmingly positive. 2 of my pieces were purchased by the museum itself for their permanent collection. My work was now in a museum. Forever. I stood there the day they installed the plaques, reading my name on the wall next to my painting. Reclamation No. 3 by Maggie Brennan. Oil and mixed media on canvas. Gift of the artist. It felt surreal. Impossible. Like something that happened to other people, not to me. But it was happening to me. Because I'd made it happen. In April, I got an email from Richard Stone, Blake's lawyer. Ms. Brennan, I'm reaching out on behalf of my former client, Blake Gallagher. He's asked me to contact you regarding the painting he discarded. Specifically, the piece titled 20 Years that anchored your first exhibition and sold for $75,000. Mr. Gallagher believes he has a legal claim to a portion of that sale, as the painting was created during your marriage using marital assets. He's prepared to file a motion to recover his share if you're unwilling to negotiate a settlement. I forwarded the email to Patricia with a single word. Seriously? She called me immediately. He's desperate and stupid. The statute of limitations for contesting property division passed months ago. Plus, we already addressed this in mediation. He has no legal standing. So I ignore it. I'll respond professionally, but yes, essentially, ignore it. Patricia sent a brief, devastating response citing case law and our divorce settlement. Richard Stone never replied. Blake, however, did call, from a new number I hadn't blocked yet. You're really going to do this? He demanded when I answered. You're really going to keep every penny? Blake, we settled this in mediation. The law is clear. I don't care about the law. I care about what's right. That painting was created while we were married, in our house, using money I earned. You threw it in the trash. Because I didn't know it was worth something. So you only value things that have monetary worth? That's your argument. That's not what I meant. Yes, it is. You didn't value my work when you thought it was worthless. Now that it's worth money, you want to cut. That's not how this works. You're being vindictive. No, I'm being fair. I created that art. I put in the hours, the effort, the emotion. The fact that you didn't recognize its value doesn't entitle you to profit from it. I supported you for years. You wouldn't have had time to paint if I hadn't been paying the bills. I paid half the bills, Blake. I worked part-time and managed the entire household while you focused on your career. Don't pretend you were my patron. I can't believe you're being this cold. I can't believe you're being this greedy. This isn't about greed. This is about principle. Then let me be clear about the principle. You don't get to throw away something I created and then demand payment when it turns out to be valuable. You don't get to dismiss me as mediocre and then claim credit for my success. And you don't get one more second of my time arguing about this. I hung up and immediately blocked the new number. That night, Zoe asked me if I felt guilty. About what? About Dad. About having so much money when he's struggling. Is he struggling? He lost his job last month. Budget cuts or something. He's been applying everywhere, but nobody's hiring senior people. Says the market's tough. I felt a twinge of something. Not guilt, exactly. Just sadness. For the life he'd built that was now crumbling. For the choices he'd made that had led him here. I'm sorry he's going through that, I said carefully. But it's not my responsibility to fix it. I know. He keeps hinting that you could help him, give him a loan or something. I told him to stop, that it wasn't appropriate. Thank you for that. He's not a bad person, Mom. He made really bad choices. I know, honey, and I hope he figures things out. But I can't be the one to save him. He has to save himself. The truth was, I could have helped Blake financially. I had the money. But giving it to him would have sent the wrong message, that his behavior was acceptable, that I was still available to rescue him, that he could continue treating me poorly without consequences. He needed to learn that actions have consequences. I'd learned that lesson the hard way. Now it was his turn. The final confrontation happened in June, at Zoe's high school graduation. Blake showed up looking diminished. Weight loss, cheap suit, hair that needed cutting. He'd aged 5 years in the past 20 months. Maggie, he said, approaching me before the ceremony. You look great. Thank you. I mean it. Success agrees with you. Blake, let's not do this. Not today. This is about Zoe. I know. I just wanted to say, I'm happy for you, really. You deserve everything you've achieved. I studied his face, looking for the trap. Thank you. And I'm sorry. For all of it. For being blind. For being cruel. For throwing away what we had. I know saying sorry doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know I mean it. I believe you. Do you think... He paused, choosing words carefully. Do you think there's any chance for us? In the future, after some time has passed? I looked at this man I'd spent 20 years with. This man who'd shared my bed, my life, my dreams. This man who'd thrown my painting in the trash and called it garbage. No, I said gently but firmly. There's no chance, Blake. We're done, and that's okay. We both need to move forward. I don't know how to move forward. Everything I built is falling apart. Then build something new, something authentic, something that matters to you, not just to other people. Like you did. Like I did. He nodded slowly. I really did love you, you know. I just didn't know how to show it. I know, but love without respect isn't enough. And you never respected me, not really. I respect you now. Now that I'm successful, now that I've proven myself, but I shouldn't have had to prove anything. You should have respected me when I was just a library assistant who painted in the garage. You're right, about everything. I wish I could go back and do it differently. We can't go back. We can only go forward. The graduation ceremony was beautiful. Zoe walked across the stage in her cap and gown, accepting her diploma with a huge smile. She'd been accepted to the University of Washington's art program starting in the fall. My daughter, following in my footsteps. After the ceremony, we took photos. Blake and me standing on opposite sides of Zoe, both of us smiling, both of us pretending everything was fine for her sake. I'm proud of you, kiddo, Blake said. Thanks, Dad. Your mom told me about UW, art program. That's really great. You don't have to sound so enthusiastic, Zoe said dryly. No, I mean it. I think it's great, really. Your mom's shown me what's possible with art. If you're half as talented as she is, you'll do amazing things. Zoe looked at me, eyes wide with surprise. I shrugged. People change. Some people, Zoe corrected, when they don't have a choice. That night, after all the celebrations and family dinners and picture-taking, I sat in my studio looking at my latest work. A large canvas, maybe my biggest yet, full of bold colors and wild brushstrokes. Nothing safe, nothing controlled, just pure emotion and energy and joy. I'd titled it Vindication. Because that's what this was. Vindication for every time I'd been dismissed, overlooked, underestimated. Vindication for every night I'd spent in the garage, painting while everyone else slept, building something that mattered. Vindication for believing in myself even when nobody else did. Blake had thrown my painting in the trash, now that painting hung in someone's private collection, valued at $75,000. My work was in a museum. I'd made over $1 million from my art in less than 2 years. I'd taken something he called garbage and turned it into gold. That was vindication. 3 months later, I received a phone call that changed everything again. Ms. Brennan, this is Alexandra Chen from the Riverside Foundation. We're calling to inform you that your painting, 20 Years, the piece sold through Riverside Gallery in your first exhibition, has been donated back to the foundation by its original purchaser, Lawrence Abbott. I'm sorry, what? Mr. Abbott has donated the piece back to us with specific instructions that it be placed in our permanent collection and valued for insurance purposes. Our independent appraisers have assessed the current market value at $170,000. I sat down hard. $170,000? Yes. Your work has appreciated significantly in value. Mr. Abbott wanted you to know that his initial purchase price of $75,000 is now considered quite a bargain. He's written a letter explaining his decision to donate the piece. I'm emailing it to you now. I opened my email with shaking hands. Dear Maggie, Lawrence wrote, I bought 20 Years because it spoke to me. The layering, the complexity, the emotional depth. I've lived with it for 2 years now, and it's been the centerpiece of my collection. But recently, I've come to believe it belongs somewhere more people can experience it. The Riverside Foundation has agreed to display it in their public gallery space, where thousands of people will see it annually. They've also agreed to include the story of its creation, how your husband discarded it, how you retrieved it, how it became the anchor of your first exhibition. I think that story matters. I think people need to hear it. Consider this my small contribution to your legacy. Lawrence. I sat there reading and rereading the letter, tears streaming down my face. The painting Blake had thrown away was now valued at $170,000. It would hang in a public gallery. People would see it, learn its story, understand what it meant. My phone rang. Blake. I almost didn't answer, but something made me. Did you hear? He asked without preamble. Hear what? Your painting, the one I threw away. It's worth $170,000 now. I just found out. Silence. Then, I'm an idiot. Yes, you are. I threw away $170,000. You threw away a lot more than that. You threw away a wife who loved you, a marriage that could have worked, a life we could have built together. I know. The money doesn't matter, Blake. It never did. What matters is that you couldn't see value in something unless other people valued it first. You couldn't respect me unless the world respected me. That's the real loss. I know that too. Then I hope you learn from it. I hope you become someone who recognizes value before the world tells you it's there. Is that what you did with your art? No, I created value. I worked and practiced and pushed myself until I made something valuable. There's a difference. I'm proud of you, he said quietly, for what it's worth. It's worth something. Not enough to change anything between us, but something. Can I ask you one last question? Okay. Are you happy? I looked around my studio, at the canvases in progress, at the life I'd built from nothing. Thought about Zoe starting college in the fall, about the museum exhibition, about the galleries in 3 cities representing my work, about the woman I'd become. Yes, I said. I'm very happy. Good. That's all I wanted to know. He hung up, and I knew it was the last time we'd speak about us, the last time he'd ask for another chance, the last time he'd try to reclaim something he'd thrown away. I turned back to my canvas, picked up my brush, and continued painting, creating value, building a legacy, living authentically, being exactly who I was meant to be.